This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
So funny how with all the stuff we're talking about tonight, no one's wrong if you really think about it long and hard. It's just
yeah. How much trivia do you want? 'Cause I have way too much, and I know way too much.
Should be sufficient. That won't overwhelm too many people, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna make a mark on the table as I go.
But we have Matt Pritchett from Communities on Twitter, a community fan page. Lo and behold, we decided, hey, we got to talk about your show. We've been meaning to do another episode on it, but how would it be on the cast members themselves?
Oh, they're great. I think they're great. But I get to talk to them on occasion, on very small occasions. So.
Absolutely.
A few of them, not all of them.
Well, they just seem like legit great people. And it just blows your mind even more. Just seeing them in interviews, they
like each other.
Yeah, they love each other, but
they really do. Not Chevy. They really like each other.
Well, yeah, not Chevy,
with the caveat.
But the people who we didn't know or we semi-knew, but now we absolutely know, now that the show has happened.
Yeah, they all are really, they got a group chat they're part of.
And most of them have made Marvel appearances. And I loved how, especially Shirley Chang and Abin.
Oh, yeah. And the dean's got a reoccurring one now because he's the dean at MIT now. That's an upgrade of a
That's
role.
True. And it was so funny how Joel McHale, he joked on Conan, is like, and I chose the DC family. I'm on Stargirl, suck it. But that was mainly because, the Russos wrote for this and Arrested Development, so they brought along anyone they had worked with onto those Marvel projects. But, I think they just kept showing how vulnerable they were. I had to even convince my co-host, John. He's like, I hate the Hangover movies. I can't stand, Kim Ji-young in those. I'm like, trust me, he's really great on Community, and at least you understand why he's inept. It's not like Hangover where they encouraged him to be over the top, and it either gets on your nerves or it makes you laugh. And I think that's just it. When Dr. Ken came out, I'm like, oh my God, he was a doctor before he was an actor, and now he's putting that to use. He's adapting his life.
Yeah, his wife's still a doctor. He's I
think so.
He's just ridiculous. Yeah. Oh no, she is. Her last name is Ho. That's why he does that joke all the time. It's really good. He says, "Shout out to Ho. You complete me, Ho." He just he did that on College Game Day, and he had everybody crying. They just stopped what they were doing and started crying, laughing. He goes, "That's her name. That's her name."
Yeah, I bet. My God,
it's funny.
And he's the kind of guy, I think because he just showed so much of what he was capable, I was carefree. I'm like, you can do whatever at this point, dude. He had a brief role in Pain and Gain. He was a doctor once again in Knocked Up. He was the employment guy in Step Brothers, but so he was on the Will Ferrell train for a while.
And he was on with the oh gosh, why am I forgetting the director's name that did all that stuff? He did Love, for crying out loud too. Why am I just blanking on him?
I
really like his wife. I can't remember his name. Judd Apatow. He's in a bunch of Judd Apatow. Yeah. He's in a bunch of Judd Apatow movies. He's
did Penguins of Madagascar.
He did the second season of of what was it? The After Party, which I thought he did really good in, playing a character named Fing.
Oh, that's right. I still gotta watch that.
He was just an accused doing a completely not funny role as a guy accused of killing his wife. It was Jamie Chung. So yeah, I Ken's actually one of the nicest people on the planet from my few exchanges with him.
Hey, he's been in the My Spy films. He was hilarious in Killing Hasselhoff, which was just a wild mockumentary. It's like a revenge, making fun of revenge movies, but just loves playing themselves.
Ken is, Ken's not the workaholic Joel is, but he's really close. But they just really enjoy, both of them just really enjoy what they're doing. And Absolutely. I think Ken's trying to get better as an actor. He's continually working on it. So I mean, it's always going to be a struggle when you've been when you jumped out of a trunk naked in a movie.
How do you get better than
getting
that?
unpigeonholed is going to be pretty impressive.
I mean, it came a long way because he played various guys in Mad TV, and then I saw him do mild guest spots, but in straight-faced roles on like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Boston Legal, and The Shield, and they were absolutely not funny roles, even though some of them were comedic. And so I think he showed he was fearless, and then after doing bit parts, sometimes with the Office guys, and even in serious stuff like Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, when I saw the trailer for Ride Along 2, I was like, oh, it's going to be bad. But I'm sure him and Olivia Munn are going to be the best parts. And sure enough, I see it. I'm like, oh, colossal waste of time. But those guys were really awesome.
I really like Ken. Yeah. No, he's really consistent. That's my favorite part. He's really consistent. You're going to get his best version of whatever he's doing. But he did the My Spy, the two movies. He
did so much. He's the fourth build after Christian Shaw, The Kid, and Batista. And I'm like, yeah, but I believe that he's part of the team because he's very unpredictable.
Yeah, his name's up there. I mean, he's on Community starting with the second episode, but he's technically there at the very beginning of the show. But he's on after the pilot, so he's. I mean, they want him there, and that was part of the problem they get into in season 4 and 5. So what do you do with the character? Well, we basically had him become a warlord in a community college, and how do you bring him back? And Ken, Ken ate that pinecone sandwich and made it work, and then they found a way to do it. And then in season 6, he's filling in the role that Donald Glover had, which is to say the weird thing that's funny. So he's just saying weird stuff all the way through season 6.
You're like the first guy I've seen talk about that. Everyone likes to talk about I fall off at this point or that point. It's like, but no one looks at what role does everybody do throughout the show.
Yeah, how do they evolve? Well, you can't replace Donald Glover. Donald Glover was amazing at everything he does. I've never seen Donald Glover throw in a C-level effort.
Personally, I never felt like they were trying to. They were just like, someone's got to go there. Like when Paquette Brewster came in as Frankie, I'm like, okay, but she's not replacing Chevy or anybody else.
No, and she's not replacing Yvette. She's not replacing any of these people.
She's not replacing Shirley, Keith Davidson.
And they're not bringing in a child. Normally you bring in somebody really young. She's not a really young actress. She's a really good actress. She's really funny. Mostly known for, Prentice on Criminal Minds, for crying out loud.
Oh, that's what was so cool for me. Is like, okay, so you came from all these other awesome sitcoms. You did Andy Richter, you did, all these voiceovers like, Harvey Birdman, got your own spinoff for Christ's sake. And then you get, these two shows back to back. I'm like, oh my God, she is diverse.
She can do anything. She's really good. She was on Drunk History. I think was one of my favorite episodes where she's just ripped and trying to tell a story. I mean, but she's a lot of fun.
She's human.
She's one of the what's the Harmontown? She's on Harmontown right after season 6, and she says, and they asked her like, what?
That's the Creators podcast.
Yeah, and they's like, what was it like? And he was like, it's, and she basically called it Stockholm syndrome, but you make a really good TV show.
That's what if you love that, you'll love. She's still very close with Andy Richter, and she appeared on his Free Questions podcast, and she gave the most real answer on like the whole auditioning process and how no one knows if anything will go beyond the pilot stage, no matter how long you've been working. And it was like the most real and funniest way of putting it out there.
I think she's a treasure. She was a great addition to season 6. I'm glad she was there.
Absolutely. And I mean, she's been in all kinds of stuff, and like I mean, the fact that she got experience doing talk show hosting and other stuff, I think just much like co-star Aisha Tyler, she just had that kind of knack for adapt to anything, and the reward will come your way. And uh, be again like all these other people, be fearless. It's not like they had to do. I think it helped that a lot of the gags were all just unusual pranks, as opposed to who will hook up with who and who's going to, streak for the school. Is like, we're on network TV, but we're going to be on an unusual kind of edgy. I mean, I light up whenever I see Lauren Stemmel, who played Professor Slater.
Yes, she's always good. She's good in everything she does.
And I brought up her name one time to my host, John. He's like, "That's the CIA gal trying to bring the main guy in on Burn Notice." And I'm like, "Yeah, she was on that one. She was the one campaign gal in that one season of Chicago Fire." But like, whenever I see her, I'm like, I don't know your morality. Like, I don't know where you stand. You got the mystery face, you got the poker face, and I think it worked for the comedy because you didn't know if she and Jeff were going to hook up. It's kind of a shame they didn't. They kind of just went on. But
well, it was, yeah, they're there for season one, when they're shooting season one, they have to mess up that relationship so he can have that moment at the genealogy thing with Pierce's stepdaughter or ex-stepdaughter. And because of the show Smash was about to come on, and they were cross-promoting by having her on there. I cannot remember her name. She's a very pretty woman who can sing very well. She's a very good actress. I cannot remember who she is.
Oh, I think I know. And yes, for those who don't know, we're talking about everybody for the most part involved with the show.
Yeah, that's also a person who's really good at stuff.
Much like we did with the Psych episode. We were just like, let's mention most everybody. Is it Megan Hilty, I think? No.
I'm going to think of her name like in a day. It's just going to drive me nuts.
No. Do you know her surname?
No.
What? Catherine McPhee. Is it?
There you go, McPhee.
Okay, because that's the only one I'm seeing, and that was literally out of the lineup. But I mean, speaking of Psych, I loved how they brought Anthony Michael Hall in there briefly. That was amusing. Eric Christian.
Yeah, they bring him back. They only bring him back for the second the paintball episode. We'll talk about later if it's full. I mean, there's only one rule, Fat Neil. It's just,
he is nice just going bonkers. I think. Say what you want about him on SNL. I think as he's come through on all these NBC Universal shows, I think he has just been letting loose. And he loves doing comedy because he's basically been getting to do the stuff he wasn't able to. Even in his John Hughes days.
When he got pigeonholed into dramatic roles and being a heavy and being and so he gets an opportunity to be comedic. I mean, but I understand he's very driven in his craft. So yeah, absolutely.
He apparently, you'll love this. He and Robert Downey Jr. always been best buds. They recently formed a production company, I think, with Robert's wife.
Oh wow, okay.
So if you see, I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we see their names attached to some development deal or some other show, and we're like, oh, what do they have to do with that?
Yeah, like Justin Lin and the Russo brothers have a production company together.
Right. Who would have guessed?
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds great. Do whatever you do, they don't do a lot yet, but I mean, it's really wild to think, these Justin Lin, all these Fast and Furious movies and Modern Warfare. I have priorities, Modern Warfare and Fast and Furious movies. And when the Russo brothers were the biggest movies in the world. Huh?
He worked on Call of Duty?
No. Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare, the episode, the paintball episode.
Oh, okay.
Justin Lin directed Modern Warfare.
Okay. Sorry,
I'm
guys.
sorry.
I don't always remember the episodes. Okay. Yeah. No. I know
Community has really hard episodes to remember the names of sometimes.
They will be two sentences sometimes. I'm like, how did they even title that in syndication?
well, they had stuff like there's a romantic episode. There's a reference to a romantic episode. It's not the Valentine's Day episode. So they do that a couple of times.
Oh, dude, you want to talk? Oh man, all the holiday episodes stood out in their own right because you not only didn't have to, much like Psych. I'm going to go back to that because it's so funny.
Psych's a great show.
Oh, yeah. It's a wonderful show, but like it's so funny how the Jay from Super Troopers, got into directing a bunch of sitcoms, and he helmed a bunch of episodes of both these shows, and he joked on the Psychologists Are In podcast. He's like, wow, why are there free psych movies and the Community movie hasn't come out yet? But it's just what the fuck, guys? But
yeah, Jay said he would volunteer to
that's
direct
that's
the
a
movie.
trooper. See what I did?
Yeah,
there?
I mean, his first episode he did was mixology certification. We talked to him like a
he
year
loves
ago.
the dating and awkward moments.
Yeah.
But he does it never in the way you would expect someone who's known for frat boy kind of stuff to even do it.
Yes, you're expecting the goofiest thing, and mixology is the most grounded episode of the entire show.
He loves the quiet moments of people just like flipping out, like mentally, like, yeah, that'd be nice. What? Just stuff like that.
Jay's been really kind with his time, so yeah, absolutely. I would love to see him direct it. I know he'd knock it out of the park.
Absolutely, and the fact that every guest star, I think definitely one of the first ones I saw all the way through was the Jack Black one.
Yeah, investigative journalism.
There you go. See, and I mean, and the fact that just so many of the other ones, you had Theo from Cosby Show, Malcolm Damon Warner on there. Walton Goggins stole his old episodes, The Unusual, Mr. Stone guy, and Martin Mull, Luke Perry, French Stewart.
Martin Mull is the one who said, and he just recently passed. Martin Mull, he was the one who said, I haven't worked with, I cannot remember. Why can't I remember people's names? Hey, I haven't worked with her since Clue, which was a lie. I remember
Leslie Ann Warren. Yeah.
Leslie Ann Warren. He says, I haven't worked with her since Clue. And so they hired her to be the mom too. That was not true. They worked like 5 times in the 90s.
Right.
But it didn't matter. It was a great story.
I thought the joke was that was the only thing everyone remembered them working on or something. I don't know. But I mean, Natasha Leggero, Taran Killam, Adam Devine.
Taran Killam lobbied to be on the show, was begging to be on the show. He was saying to the show, please find me a spot. And they're like, we had this crazy. And he's like, I'll do it. And that was it. He was all in.
I mean, even
I got to talk to him like 2 years ago. Oh yeah, good Lord. I've talked to Joel multiple times. Chris McKenna, one of the major writers of the show, the Spider-Man movies. I talked to Charlie Coons, obviously. I talked to the writer of Fistful of Paintballs. I talked to him, Andrew Guest. He's also writing the movie. Taram I talked to about the Christmas episode like 2 years ago for its 10th anniversary. Yeah, the people that were on the show, they had to work really strange jobs or really long hours. But everybody that has been on the show, I don't know anybody that left other than Chevy. That was unhappy with the experience.
Everybody
else seemed happy.
He was getting up there, and I think that's just it. Like when people sign on, they need to say, "And by the way, you'll accept these hours." And it's like, or we're
gonna have days called Fraturday. We're gonna be filming Saturday mornings and also Saturday night.
Well, they did that the fact that they wanted to keep changing it out. Like when Jim Rash wrote that wonderful comedic movie, I was just floored. I'm like, this dude.
Are you talking about the one he won the Oscar for, or the Way Back?
Yes, the Way Back. I was just like,
the Way Back is gorgeous. I love that. It was
such a heartwarming movie. I'm like, see, this movie gets me because this is not how many people can we gross out and everything. Is like, this is people getting annoyed by all their bizarre people who are in their lives and having to find a mental escape. It's like, see, that was cool because anyone else would have had
it's a really sweet movie. Yeah, you 2 years before you do you're a co-writer on The Descendants, you win an Oscar, and 2 years later you make The Way Back. And The Way Back's I enjoyed it more than The Descendants. So
no, that's a good point too. I mean, The Descendants was kind of more a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but that one was like his authentic voice. I'm like, this is the dude who had bit parts in. I saw him guest star in shows like Friends and bit parts in Minority Report as one of the techs. And he didn't know where he would joke in interviews. I didn't know I'd end up where I am now. You don't know.
No. Him and his writing partner Nat Faxon, they directed an episode of Community too. This was their big favorite baby they made after The Descendants. And so, I mean, it's a lot of fun. And we had somebody that used to live where they shot this thing that we talked to.
Oh, wow.
I when you've done
Greenville College,
I do recommend that if you ever get a chance to interact with a large fan base, or at least the fan base is currently on Netflix. Not on Netflix now, but when it was in 2020, you end up getting to talk to a lot of people who are participating in the show, or were there where things were filmed, or just had interactions with cast,
even
and crew,
people who were
and
like
just
one
enjoyed it.
episode. Like I forgot I didn't like him on NCIS, but the spinoff. But Eric Christian Olsen as the one guy flirting with Annie, and he's often singing shirtless. He had done a lot of comedies.
He's
so
with prosthetic tiny nipples. Yes, Vaughn.
Hey, Vaughn. Yeah, that was a funny
Hey, hi,
guy.
how are you? Yeah.
He's not an idiot, but he's just desperate, and so he's letting it hang.
So his band Some Worries. Yeah, after No Worries no longer works.
Oh, that's it.
No,
it felt like a good
do,
experimentation.
Yeah, no, they have a lot of ridiculously talented people in the first season that they have for multiple episodes, like Gelson. So yeah. Now, who did we skip on? We talked. I know we talked about it.
There was Natasha Leggero. There was
season 4.
Tim and Eric, believe it or not, made an appearance in there, and I guffawed when I saw Lisa Rinna. I'm like, of course she's like Mark's mom.
Yes, in one of the more controversial episodes of season 1, but yes.
There had to be a soccer mom. But Busy Phillips, I thought was cool, but yeah.
Yeah, no, they're doing the crossover from Cougar Town that that's all it was. Her and the other guys show up from Cougar Town. It's a nice little touch because Danny had just did that season showed up in Cougar Town. It's in the background.
Wild.
Yes, just the show's just, particularly season 2, is just
Jim
one
Kirkman's another
wild thing. Kirkman, yeah.
Drag Queen Shangela, Nick Kroll was another one being a douche. Randall Park, French Stewart, Matt Lucas, a British comedian, but like Tricia Helfer, number 6 from Battlestar, was on there twice. One time playing herself, and then but I loved it when she was actually in the other later season. She's playing Vince Gilligan's like dream wife or whatever. After credits.
Oh, that's Gina Gershon.
Oh, that's right.
Speaking of having a out of nowhere, actress. Oh my God, it's Gina Gershon. Yeah, she's there.
The 90s are back
with Vince Gilligan and playing his wife. I'm like, yeah, I know how they convince Vince to do this since he never is in front of a screen anymore. Like, all right, we're gonna have you play a cowboy on a VHS tape, and the prize for this is we're gonna have Gina Gershon play your wife.
Oh,
and I'm in.
It worked for him before. I mean, like that's how he did the homicide crossover of X-Files, where he's like, how about we just have Detective Munch investigate Agent Mulder? It'll never happen. And it happened because he has.
And it happens.
And they're like, sure, we love the show. Sure, let's make it happen. So I think that's just it. When people like you and you just are sincere in your ask, you can make it happen. I mean, I don't think Magnitude, pop, expected to go from Harry Potter to this,
No. And then sing on Gallivant for 2 seasons. No, I didn't. You never saw that coming.
Oh,
yeah, Luke Youngblood.
Yep.
Who's you never see him until he pops up and he's everywhere for like 2 years.
You're like,
but he's great.
This dude, where has he been all my life? Oh, he's been everywhere.
Yeah, you see a picture of him on Instagram and he's in Thailand for like 1.5 years. I'm like, not doing anything, just hanging out. So he seems to be happy.
I hope, man. I would hate for someone to have done all this effort and be like,
don't be hanging out there.
I hate people. Yeah, and especially in Thailand. Please don't. I better not hear anything bad.
This is where you want to be.
So did you know that Brita actress Gillian Jacobs, was very? I'm sure you know, but I did not know until a few years ago, that she apparently had done a podcast with Upright Citizens Brigade comedian Diana Reasonover, who's
just pronounced Reasonover.
Still in the show now on NCIS as the main doctor gal, but I'm just like, wow, these guys are scientific.
Well, she's not scientific. They just talk to them. But yeah, it was a science podcast they did for a while.
Didn't Brutus?
It was good.
Jillian didn't study that? I thought she studied like some like.
She went to Juilliard. They didn't teach you math or science at Juilliard. They just taught you this is how to be an actress. She really hated it, by the way. If you find any interview, her talking about her time at Juilliard, it's almost exclusively hated it. Almost got kicked out, hated it.
I think that's why she related to
But she's got lots of good friends from there.
Absolutely, but like I do recall her just being kind of like just very picky about certain stuff, but that's just it. I didn't like college either, but I think that's why she did so well in the role. She's playing someone who doesn't want to be here yet.
Doesn't want to be in college yet. No, she does a lot of 99% Invisible. I think she's done like 4 episodes for them where she does various, and there's some science associated with most of the ones she does for them.
That's cool.
Kind of and of course, right now she's doing Adam Eve.
Times. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's the biggest thing she's doing right now is Invincible.
She's on The Bear now, apparently. I need to still see that, but
oh yeah, she's on like 2 or 3. Her longtime boyfriend, or I guess that sounds stupid after like a decade. Her partner is the guy that created the show The Bear. So the reason you keep seeing Community people there is because he was there in season 3. He was hanging around season 3 Community, cool. So he knows all of them. So the reason you see Joel, the reason there's a picture of Danny in season 1 on the wall somewhere, the reason Gillian is on there is that's her guy.
Oh, that's cool. But I think this is it. Like, she's done some fun crossovers with the other guys. Like, Rick and Morty was created by Dan Harmon, so she did a.
She's been on Rick and Morty. I don't remember if she's done Crapopolis yet, which is another Dan Harmon show.
I don't think so, but
a lot of their writers are there. The old Community writers are working there now. But I know
it's natural
Allison
crossover.
has.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Allison has done voices for Rick and Morty and Crapopolis. I know Joel
She's like
has.
Mecha Kitty in the Lego Movie, and you're like,
yeah.
I know that voice. Where do I know that voice from?
She did a Walgreens commercial like during the pandemic, and I know her voice. It's
the JC Penney's, is it? I think.
Oh yeah, she did the Macy's. She did the Macy's. She was
and
playing
I'm
the
just
Christmas
fine because it was even more funny because I was with some of my filmmaker buddies and we were writing. He's like, I feel like I should know her. I'm like, oh, you know her.
You know her.
You know her.
She's Ruth from Glow. If you don't know her from Community, and
there
she's
you go.
really good on Glow.
She was good on Glow. Comedy Bang Bang, but like, well, actually, no, I don't think she was on that. But like when
Gillian's on Bang Bang a lot.
Gillian's, yes, but like Brie, when like she and Britta have Gillian have kind of both become kind of scream queens.
Yeah, they just her and her husband made a couple of horror movies, and
she was good in this
Aubrey Plaza and her husband who just passed away. They had like a troupe that Allison, she wrote Horse Girl with him.
Yes, there's that.
So yeah, they have this. She was part of this really small, like 8 people that just kept making movies.
Absolutely. When I saw her in Come Play, which is basically another Poltergeist,
yes, horror movie, yeah, Gillian's horror movie, yeah,
and then just some other dramas. Like I remember even looking back on her credits and like I've seen more than I even realized. I didn't realize that was her in Gardens of the Night, which was a tragic, ensemble.
No, she plays drug addicts, hookers a lot before Community. All of her roles are some variation of drug addict hooker.
I guess
or street
because
urchin.
it wasn't overly sexual for the most part. It was just someone in a bad place. Like when I saw her in Seeking a Friend for the End of the World and Burt Wonderstone, I'm like, oh, okay. So there's life outside of Community. I think that's it. They were so busy. They didn't get comfortable. They stayed creative. They stayed busy. But yeah, same thing with Alison Brie.
Gillian did. I'm trying to think. She did Love right after Community. That that Judd Apatow series. She did Love.
Netflix
she was in Transatlantic, which is a Netflix series, a mini series about real events of World War II.
I wanted to see that.
It's good.
It came and went. I was like, oh, that's right. It's a miniseries. And I got
it's not very long, but there's a bunch of good actors in it. She plays Mary Jane.
You would love
Mary
her.
Jane Gold. Yeah, but she gets to wear period piece clothing. It's just some of the stuff just wild looking.
It was wild. I think you would like her appearance on the new Twilight Zone as well as Andrew
Yes, that was really good.
Yeah, but I wasn't crazy about Star Trek Lower Decks. I know that's controversial. I had fun with that first, and then it kind of lost me. But her episode, I'm like, she looked.
No, she was really good because you couldn't figure out why she actually liked Bomer. Yeah, it was perfect.
And it was violent, so it was just like, okay, so this is Britta in Star Trek. Okay, perfect. And
yeah, there's Britta in Star Trek. It worked really well.
She's been on Winning Time, and
I liked that series until the last season. They kind of rushed it, but yes, Pat Riley's wife.
I'll take your word for it.
It was smart about it until the last season. The last season was like, we're going to do like 10 years in 5 episodes. Boom. And that was it.
Why?
Oh, man. Yeah.
But yeah, she's done some Wondery podcasts and everything. And I'm just like, these people are very diverse. They're not about just letting time fly. And they're also not about just the awards.
They all work so much.
Yeah, and I mean, same thing. That's the thing. Like the only guy I knew prior to this was like, oh yeah, the guy from The Soup. You know, it's like, I know Joe McHale. I forgot that he was in other movies like Spider-Man 2 as the banker guy, but I'm just like, yeah, like when he was in this, like
he's in The Informant for crying out loud. I mean, he's in a ton of great.
A guest. I loved how he was on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, and he's like, I loved you in what's the one movie? It's a really Deliver Us from Evil. He's like, it was such a fun, supernatural horror movie, fantasy film you were in. He's like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I heard him on a Mortal Kombat podcast because he got to voice Johnny Cage.
He does one of the voices.
He was Johnny freaking Cage in those animated movies, and just knowing about him made me love him even more. Just because I think again, even like on Rosenbaum's podcast, he talked about how he realized he didn't know until he was a dad that he was dyslexic. Like he just never put it together. I'm like, you know who else would just refuse to come to terms with that? Typical celeb would probably be like, oh, I can't let the world know about that. It's like, there's no shame. It's all good.
He talks about his hair extension plugs that he's done. He's the only person I know that has ever talked about that who's an actor. He's regularly, if somebody asks him about it, he's like, and he's said it straight up in interviews. He's like, oh yeah, he goes, it's the best. I forgot how much money he spent, but I've never bought a car for that amount. I can tell you that amount. But I remember him saying a number for it, and he goes, it's the best. Let me say just $30,000 is a starting number. He's the best $30,000 ever spent. And of course he's had it done multiple times, he said. Yeah, if you go look, if you look at him from Spider-Man 2, which you mentioned, his hair is thinner in the front. And now it's very specifically grown, and that's.
But like he learned from his kid. Plugs. He's like, this didn't just happen. This is genetics. It's me. I just didn't realize it. I just somehow read stuff. It didn't make sense, but I said it enough times. It made sense. And it looked easy. I was having fun doing it. And so he evolved in reverse chronological order, but I think he's just gotten way deeper as a comedian. I
think he's gotten better because, he has to pay more attention to it to make it work. And I think once he learned that was a problem for him, he got better at reading the material. He's gotten better as a comic. He's gotten better as an actor. And when he gets to do more consistent stuff, I think he does really good work.
Bingo.
There's lots of times where he has nothing to do. His favorite role that he's done post Community is played Chevy Chase in the Futile and Stupid Gesture movie on Netflix. That's my favorite role because he's playing Chevy the whole time, and all I could think is that's Joel just really heading playing Chevy.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it's really it's a good little movie. But he's doing physical bits. He's knocking stuff over and being
around.
obnoxious.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
well, you'd know him.
That's great. I need to.
I do recommend it. It's ridiculous. Just staring at him playing Chevy Chase is just bonkers.
And he just makes look being all dressed up in a suit and then having those geeky sneakers. I don't know why. That just
perfect.
like acknowledges his inner geek. Is like he had the role before he actually had it. And I mean, the likable snark, I call it. But
yeah.
I don't want to even call him a snark.
He's
He's so
natural.
likable. And I mean, he said in an interview how he's got a wonderful marriage and everything, but like he drives his wife crazy because he likes to in between caring for the kids rewatch all the Die Hards, Jason Bournes, and then they asked him, "Is like, what's your favorite show?" And this is the funniest one that just crushed me. It was so funny. He's like, "Oh, the X-Files," and it's not because I was on that one season as the reality show host. Trust me. I always loved that show. I just happened to be on it later on. I came back. With Jillian, and again, before I was just like casually watching Community. Like my sister got into it, and then me and my mother slowly got into it. And it's like, that's fun, that's cool. But then when doing a full rewatch and watching it all, it was blam. Like no amount of DVRing and watching it every week could have prepped me for how good a show it was in retrospect. But like, I think she doesn't get enough praise for that one College Friends Uniting movie. She did a cool drama with Kevin Hart called Let Go, but then she did another one. Keegan Michael Key.
Are you talking about Life of the Party? She's in Life of the Party. That's a Melissa. I cannot remember her last name either.
McCarthy. Not
Melissa
that one,
McCarthy movie.
But she was good in that. Again, playing a straight.
She's my favorite part in that one.
Yes.
Politely. I used to go here. I used to go here probably.
Really?
Hot Tub Time. She's in Hot Tub Time Machine 2 with Chevy.
Yeah.
She's one of the few people who's worked with Chevy.
There you
since.
go. And that's the same kind of movie where I'm like, hey, it's not as strong a movie, but it's very campy and they're all very good in it. But yeah, I would see her in other just like serious stuff like The Look-alike and but Bad Milo, which was a wacky horror comedy. But
that's one of the hardest movies I've ever watched. Is Bad Milo. But I watched for Gillian. I watched it simply. Gillian went on Conan, and she's like, "Well, why did you do this movie?" She's like, "It's a movie about a butt monster. I'm 100% going to be in that movie." And I thought that was just so earnest about what the reason she was in it. I love this idea.
She doesn't hide. She doesn't give a safe answer in any interview I've seen her in. But yeah, I don't think twice. You want to talk college? I loved it how it was all college pals, and I mean, and that's just it. I only casually knew her. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, the Community got one. But I was like, oh, Keegan Michael Key, Kate McCushie, and then all these other people who, if you look them up, they've done just sitcom guest spots.
And she's not somebody who does that style of comedy. She does not do off the cuff. She does not do improv. And so it was for her. I mean, this is one thing I really like about her. A lot of the work she's taken on since Community has been stuff she's uncomfortable with.
Yes.
So she's trying new stuff where she can. So I just think she's brave. She was not good
she's
at comedy.
She's also part of the DC universe.
Yes.
She did an Injustice appearance playing Harley Quinn.
She's got Harley Quinn for crying out loud. Yeah, no, she really did no comedy prior to Community, and so she had to learn to be funny on the show, and they just leaned in her natural skills, and she's great.
I think that's just it. Like, people find something that's still outside their safe zone while still being engaging, and I mean, I didn't realize there was a Night at the Museum 4 animated movie, but yeah, she was in that. But like, if you ever see The Contractor with Chris Pine, I mean, there she is playing, an army merc.
She's the wife. Unfortunately, he's not home enough since she's the wife.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned. He's not home enough.
She had a lot of just drama on her face. I'm like, see, anyone else would have overacted that or
Yeah.
been short on selling it, and she like. I mean, even before the Darkest Timeline episodes, I just couldn't believe she did so much dyeing of your hair. It's like, no wonder I don't recognize you half the time. So she's played the Hollywood game. She hasn't relied on just one look,
No, and
so many people do, and they get burnt out. And it's like, well, don't
you can't
quit
pigeonhole
because of the
her.
bullshit.
I really like that about her. You just cannot pigeonhole her. She, Donald's the most enigmatic of them all, but she's definitely in that same category of somebody you can't say this is all she is. That never. She
did a funny Visa ad, or it was some ad.
Coke. She did a Coke ad.
That's what it was.
She's like, do it the way,
funny.
do what
Me
you
and
want.
My mother in unison were like, "Hey, community gal,
Oh no, my spouse every so often I'll say something. She's like, "How does this relate to community?" Because it's the only reason you're telling me this. I'm like, "Okay, yes, that's true." And then I'll get it out of the way, and we'll go about our day. She's very tolerant of me. I'm very happy.
You're like, come on, man, you married a geek. What did you think of? The one comedic heist movie she did.
She's in a heist movie.
It was like a trio of gals, and they're like robbing.
Why am I blanking?
It's like they were.
Like that.
I know it's. Ibiza,
I mean, she's in the Fear Street movies. That was really good.
Ibiza, that's the one.
Ibiza. Oh yeah. No, it was it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie.
And I forgot she was in Widows, but again, brief part. But
yeah,
I think this is it. Like she's dangerous in a good way. Like she's awesome.
She's capable of so much, and she swings for it, and she does odd projects. And she doesn't want to be predictable. No, and she's not. She hasn't been. So I've just really enjoyed her work.
I'm with it, man. I got nothing to bash any of these people on. I could not do their thing. I don't think they're poorly used for the most part. But Keith David. Oh my God! I was a guest star on Munson's at the Movies, and they're all big, huge Gargoyles fans. And when talking about his section on Community, they're like, you can tell when they wrote for him, they wanted him to say it in his typical voiceover role.
Yes,
like America's Navy.
There's a scene in the dog getting a degree episode. There's a scene there where they had a line for him, and every time he said the line, it didn't work. Different variations of the line didn't work. And he said, "Okay, just leave the camera on his face and let him raise an eyebrow." And that's all they do. And
that's
they were like, "It's the best response."
Leroy would say that.
Yeah. He was great as he doesn't have a real name in the movie, The Nice Guys, but he's the older guy who fights the gladiator.
He's in anything.
Yeah. He's great in everything he's done. He had that long running series where he was playing a priest.
For God's
sake. Just let him speak. He's the president on Rick and Morty, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
and it's perfect.
He's taking out the trash. This is funny.
God, he's really good at everything that he does. When he did the voiceover for the Pillows and Blankets episode, Dan didn't think he liked it. Dan's like, I was listening to him recording, goes, he never laughed, he never did anything, because he's a pro. He's just doing his job.
He's not here to dick around, unlike other people who are like, okay, you can do that, but it might not work.
They gave him a change late, and he made his phonetic notes on it, because that's how he says everything so crisp and clearly. He makes little handwritten phonetic notes. He did it, and after it's over, he goes, "Hey man, that's funny." He's like, and Dan's like, "Oh, it was the best feeling ever." He's like, he goes, "I just think the world of it." And he's like, "Hey, this is funny." Because I thought he hated it. It was like it just a weight lifted off his shoulders.
Waiting to have done.
Oh yeah,
made use of an hour instead of just I can't tell if he's doing a good job or not, or getting too comfy.
Is he like what he's doing?
Right.
I mean, he's just a consummate professional. So he just did his job. And then afterward, he told him what he thought of it, and he liked it. So that's part of the reason they brought him back.
Oh, I totally spaced. Jacobs was in this other movie. I think I saw part of a while back. It was an LGBTQ comedy, Life Partners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
played
with
your pal.
Why can't I remember the
Leland Meister was her gay pal, and it was just like a heartwarming movie, and just like, see, who could have even promoted that movie? It was just like,
it was. She's in a bunch of movies that
a 90-minute sitcom, basically, and
Yeah.
I was okay with that because it was just like the characters were interesting enough and they brought it to life. And it was like, that's how you do a comedy instead of try to see if it can or can't work. It's like, well, you don't know until you read it aloud.
So for Donald Glover, is Earn your favorite thing he's done in Atlanta?
You know, I think I really have just dug his uh music art act, Childish Gambino. I've just am like
his music's just, I like it better when he sings. I'm just old and I have hearing loss.
I still need to see Swarm. I still
Swarm, yeah.
And the Mr. and Mrs. Smith show, which I hear is actually pretty solid. But
I did watch that one. It's they basically take the part of the premise of the movie that they don't do, and instead say, okay, but they both know, and let's start. And they basically, it's the old complaint we have about a lot of TV shows. Like they take the old premise, the old movie, and they make a entire season of the first 15 minutes of whatever the movie was. And to some degree, Mr. and Mrs. Smith does that, but they're also doing something different the whole time. So they're never not knowing what relationship they're in. They know they're in a business relationship
instead
as contract
of
killers.
Getting to
instead of pretending they don't know and doing that joke, they're actually having a conversation about marriage, and most of the jokes are about the awkwardness of being in a relationship with somebody you actually don't know.
That's a good point.
So it's really well done.
It's actually getting psychological instead of
it's
good actors running in slow motion with silence pistols. There's explosions and they're completely freaked out by them. There are fights and they're exhausted by them. And then I just mean there's another component instead of just good actors against a closed stage getting in shape. It's actually
it was really good. I do recommend that one. It's a good one.
And I totally forgot he started, writing for 30 Rock and what have you. But people forget
they got him for free at 30 Rock.
Yeah, he really did, because that was when he was beginning. But I saw part of his stand up and it was a hoot. But,
what's it? Weirdo? Is it Weirdo? Is the name of it? Yeah,
I think so. Yes. And
it's very funny. All of it's very funny.
If you haven't seen Mystery Team, which is a totally improvised comedy with some other, UCB guys.
The Derek comedy, because everybody's name started with a D. So they just called it Derek, because that was a Derek name. That was a D name they did not have in the group.
I even forgot he was in Robot Chicken's third Star Wars special.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
he did.
He was in a forgettable comedy with Steve Carell, but
he's in Adventure Time, for crying out loud.
He's on freaking Adventure Time. I still need to see Swarm, and I didn't like the Disney Muppets, but he was good in it. If you haven't seen the To-Do List, which with your girl Aubrey Plaza, he was really good there. But I totally forgot he was in the other ensemble, genre movies, Lazarus Effect and The Martian.
The Martian, yeah, he's really fun in The Martian. When he falls, that was an actual mistake. Yeah, he just kept moving.
I just couldn't get into Atlanta, but I'm glad. I was just
Atlanta gets weird the last two seasons. They do some really odd stuff.
Like it was kind of like every other live action movie I was feeling was trying to outdo Family Guy. This was kind of reverse. I'm like, everything they were making fun of or satirizing, I'm like, they did this on the Boondocks. They did this in even Boys in the Hood. And I just couldn't stick with it. I just didn't like any of the writing, but a lot of people loved it. So the people have spoken, and I was just cool with the fact that, hey, he's staying relevant. He's doing his own thing. He's working on all these production deals.
He got a bunch of people talking about it. He was really good.
I mean, he's in Spider-Man, these animated movies, for God's sake. So, I mean, he's in one of the Magic Mikes,
he's in the second Magic Mike. He's in the Across the Spider-Verse as himself. Well, not himself. He's as a real person instead of an animated character.
Oh man!
Of course, he's in the other Spider-Man movie. I got a nephew that lives around here. He's in the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland.
Hey, hi nephew.
He's in a ton of stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think Yvette's the only one we haven't talked about. Is the only one.
I was blown away by her in interviews. When she was having to care, she's a single mom. She was having to do The Odd Couple. I think.
Well, she's not a single mom. She's not a mother. She was taking care of her dad. Her dad.
That's
had dementia.
What it was.
Still has dementia, and she just got married first time at the age of 53.
I think just losing weight, but also doing all kinds of different kinds of comedy and voiceovers.
She's worked with Pixar, Disney, every one of the animated studios. She's worked for them.
Yes, all the Sony stuff. Yeah.
She's other than Donald, she's the only one who's got an Emmy nomination since the show's been over.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, she was a Judge Harper on the Black Lady Sketch Show. So she got that a couple years back.
Yes. I think I saw part of that, but like I saw her hosting a Sci-Fi Channel show that was like about makeup artists.
The costumes, doing costumes,
and they didn't properly promote it, but she was awesome. I'm like,
no, they never promoted that show, and it was really interesting because it was basically cosplayers competing against each other. It was great. No,
I heard good stuff about Big Shot. That was pretty good. Which was
I enjoyed Big Shot. Yeah.
Show. But
it was kind of cookie cutter in the story structure, but they actually did stick the heart part. I thought they did a really good job. And of course, you had a bunch of teenage women as so you expect a certain type of emotional stuff that they talk about, but they actually did a really good job with it. I thought
that's why I like David
Kelly. It could have been sloppy if they weren't.
He gets me in the feels. Like he'll get you in a way where you're like, this should be soapy, but now this is very twisted and bringing up unusual morals that I never thought of even questioning. And Shirley and Annie, again, both Bree and Brown, I think their characters were probably the best advertised. Anytime I saw a Community promo, next week on NBC, like they stood out the most. Like they always had the best bits. And I think it was just so funny. Like after seeing a few episodes of Community, I knew what she looked like, but then it was just so funny. Like kind of like Octavia Spencer, I would see her in a role like something before she was famous, like Boston Legal or The Office, and I'm like, oh wow, I would have never known. And then, but I think the first thing I ever saw her post Community was an episode of Chuck, which was kind of it was on the same network, but it was an absolute kind of.
It was a crossover because Danny Puddy's in the same episode with her.
That's right.
He's in there right before,
It's not, they're not playing their characters, but it's kind of a fun wink, acknowledgement of other comedic forces. And they were playing the equivalent of their characters. It was just kind of a fun way of like,
very much
come on over, just be funny. And I totally forgot that she was in all kinds of stuff, everything from Tropic Thunder to Repo Man. And I was just like, man, but I think I liked how they evolved the Shirley character. It's like, okay, she's done being a Karen now. Now she's
in Tropic Thunder, for crying out loud.
Yeah, when you're in Tropic Thunder, you can. You've
been everywhere.
500 Days of Summer, but yeah,
she's been in a ton of stuff. She's consummate. She wrote a movie, for crying out loud.
She wrote a movie. Okay.
Yeah, she had a movie come out. I want to say about 3 years ago. She wrote it when she was not.
Oh my God, she's in Dreamgirls as the secretary. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
She wrote Always a Bridesmaid. Came out in 2019.
What the hell?
On Netflix.
Wow.
She wrote it when she was a secretary. That was before she wrote it after because she had a recording contract at one point.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, she is so talented. It's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Wow. So yeah, Always a Bridesmaid. Okay. I can't wait. I'll be there opening day. Because again, like I think that's the thing. Like, I mean, this is actually the best intersection. That's kind of how I was with Danny Pudi. Is like, as Ovid, I'm like, and it's so funny. Out of all the actors, I call him by his name the most. His character name the most. I'm like, oh, it's Ovid.
It's Ovid.
And
yeah, he may be Brad in Mythic Quest, but he's Abed at nearly every other moment in my life when I'm talking about him.
And much like Jillian, like he is really, really bright in real life, and so he's done all these observations, and everything. And so when you see him at all these movie premieres and all these other talk shows, you're like, I could let you talk all day. Like, and
yeah,
but yeah,
I've actually talked to him. I did the 6 seasons in a podcast, did an interview with him. I got to be on there with Danny.
I forgot that was a thing.
Yes, and Danny was just as nice in that the parts we didn't record. He was just as nice in that as he is in every other thing. Every time you see Danny Pudi, you think, oh, that guy seems like really nice. He really is really nice.
That was hosted by
sweetheart
Joel and Ken, I think, right?
Joel and Ken had the Darkest Timeline podcast.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so this was another Community Act.
Yes,
podcast.
Alex Alex is a guy who asked Andrew Guest to do an interview once, and Andrew said yes, and Andrew started connecting with people. So he's talked to everybody but Gillian and Alice and of course Chevy.
Well,
but I think he's talked to everybody else of the main cast.
Yeah. Allison Starr was taking off and doing stuff with her husband. So, but yeah, when Ovid went over to Mythic Quest, I was like, this makes sense because now he's playing. He was playing
He's playing Jeff.
He absolutely is. He's playing the Jeff equivalent.
He's playing a horrible human being. He's playing Jeff.
Right. Although I don't think Jeff would cross most of these lines that he's going.
No. It's the things
he's
that
the
Brad
darkest
does.
timeline version of Jeff. Yes, and
absolutely, he doesn't have the goatee, but his hair is definitely kept in a different way.
He's deciding to bully everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
If you haven't seen The Tiger Hunter, it's a Semi Malik movie.
I want to see it.
We keep the character named Semi Malik. It's a very sweet movie. You're like, oh, this is exactly what Abed would make of a movie. If he had movie. This is exactly what it would do.
I think that's why I wanted to see it.
It's a very enjoyable movie.
It looked like a total just heritage embracing movie. I was like, yes,
it's definitely in the 70s. It's 1,000%. Every lapel you see is too broad. There's too much paisley. There's too much plaid. There's way too much bell bottom. It is very much in the 70s.
Someone had to do it.
Yeah. But it's a uplifting story. Ultimately, I actually
that's what I heard. But yeah, it was kind of like in and out, and then gone before I could see it. Where do I find it?
You have to find it wherever it's streaming, and it'll be there for a couple of months, and that's it. And then it's just bouncing around. But it's actually a good, enjoyable, sweet movie. I like it a lot.
That's lovely. And I think that's just it. I was just like, because we love them so much on the show, we wanted to see them carry their own show or own movie, and it's like, you're just very easy to like, if that makes sense. Like, you guys are just shut up and take my money.
Well, after they did the table read back in 2020, there's
so great.
They did the darkest timeline where they continued to talk to each other afterwards, and that is, it's just a wonderful reminder how much they like each other. And they just basically hung out till everybody had to leave, and that's how they treated it. They just hung out till everybody had to leave.
That's it. I knew
it was just so sweet. I just loved it. It was not wonderful to see.
And
no, you don't get to see it often.
I think it helped that. I mean, I know Ken and Jeff's one podcast kind of got delayed by COVID, but the other ones, I did recall kind of just vaguely saying, just like they were sharing trivia, I mean, now it's second nature. Everyone's doing it.
Everybody's doing the thing, and they were doing it 4 years earlier.
Absolutely. The Friends guys, before they were doing a documentary. I mean, there was a Scrubs recap podcast. Now there's
he was just on the Scrub ones with the two, with Falzon and I can't remember the guy. He's the main character from Scrubs. Why am I blanking on? Yeah, Joel was just on there with them talking about the Community.
Similar kind of comedy. That's awesome.
They shared executive producers.
I know the closest I can think is, I mean, every other recap out now is often for a dramatic show. Like there's a Prison Break one now that's really entertaining, but there's one for Suits. And because Julie Hill's over there, he does have a bit of a psych crossover, and most of the time they're not.
The New Girl cast is doing one now for their show.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that, I don't know, a month or so ago.
Well, I'm glad they're making this be kind of part of the biz instead of podcast. What the hell's a podcast? And
well, I personally wish the actors would stop doing it. I
don't
think
get
they're
me
sucking.
Wrong. There's plenty of bad ones that I tuned out of because.
Oh, sure.
Long story short, there were some that were very entertaining because they actually had engaging trivia, and like the Suits one I like because you don't have to watch the episode to understand what they're talking about, and most of the time they're talking with just filmmakers who have many awesome stories to talk about. I'm like, okay, so that's cool, good. But for instance, there were plenty of other celebrities. Like, I stopped listening to the Office Deep Dive one after a while because he kept repeating himself and he wasn't good at promoting the ads. Some thing with Maria Menounos. I love her as a person, but after a while, I'm like, I'm going to do a quarter of this episode and then I'm going to go on to the next thing because it's just too much to ask for one.
They don't know the show as well as the fans do,
or they
because they 10 different. Well, they filmed 10 different versions of that scene, and they may remember the one it didn't air. So they don't
agree.
remember unless they've recently watched it. They can't tell you stuff. The writers are actually better at telling you about how things happen. But the cast horrible at it. They don't remember. They have 10 versions of that thing.
Or they just need to clean up half of the dead space. It's kind of like a commentary track on a Blu-ray or DVD. What do I hate? 20 minutes going by without you guys saying a single word.
Yeah, the commentaries for Community, except for season 4 and season 6, are all cast members talking about the thing in front of them, and they watch it and talk about it. And they're some of them are clearly drunk, and it's a lot of fun.
That's got to be funny.
The first 3 seasons are totally worth it. Season 6 is just Dan. Because he's the only one left at that time. But in season 5 has the cast back. But season 4, it's sometimes a cast, sometimes crew. But seasons 1 through 3, Donald Glover's being Donald Glover on like 3 or 4 episodes, and he's just hilarious. He's cracking everybody up. You're missing half the episode because of some random comment that he said.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's great.
So, I mean, I've seen part of the side pod commentary, so I'll have to do those. There was a great show. Well, I wouldn't call it great, but it was entertaining while it lasted. There was this show called Powerless that
one season.
Yeah, it had.
And it was on one season.
It had Vanessa Hudgens. It had
Alan
Tudyk, and what's his name?
Oh, I know you're talking about. He's very funny.
Ron Funches. Yes,
Funches.
He was great. I didn't see all of it, but I was like, yeah, this is fun. But unfortunately, they killed it too soon. But now he's on this one, with Dennis Leary called. It's a military family comedy. I'm like, I haven't seen a single moment of this, but it just sounds...
one. Yeah, it's Going Dutch.
With Dennis Leary.
The pilots with Dennis Leary. There's been one episode aired. I've seen that one. That's all I've seen. I think it aired tonight. No, it airs tomorrow.
And I'm just like, it sounds ambitious. I just don't think Fox is going to give it a chance.
And like Animal Control is doing what it does. I mean,
I'm so glad you brought that up. Like
they have a formula for what they're doing, and they're doing it each season.
Well, they're doing kind of what they did with like Whiskey Cavalier. Like it's a fun, just people going on a random adventure, and you look at all the writing staff, and they've done everything from Spin City to Office to Drew Carey Show. So it's like, okay, so they're not imitating anybody. They've found their own identity, and they're just waiting for you to discover them. People were going to watch it as much as those who already like Joel's brand of comedy. There were many who were also going to watch it just because of the outrageous poster. You're like, and the name Animal Control. What the hell can that be about? And then they have random wild animals on there. Joel would let him put a tarantula in his face, or he's holding a giant snake. Yeah,
and he's dropping Community references into the show. He's regularly doing that.
Ken showed up in an episode playing an arch nemesis of his,
and he's going to come back apparently.
I've heard that, and season 3 apparently dropped. But like and again, Jay directed some episodes, so it had that kind of unusual, just feel to it. I'm like, okay, it's more than just animal catastrophes. It's like, this is just a weird show instead of just one where you're like, ugh, this is getting under my skin.
No, they're intentionally weird. They intentionally do stuff.
And then not in the way that you would even think weird. Like it is not in that, like it opens up and it doesn't know what genre it is. It's like, it's nutty. No pun.
It is.
I mean, there's a squirrel on the poster. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up Mythic Quest, because like I am really surprised that one took off. Like, because even though there's a lot of crossover with all these other shows we talked about and Always Sunny, it's like it's hard to replicate comedy. Not everybody gives everything a chance. And much like Ted Lasso, I was there when it was already like 2 years into its thing, so I was able to breeze through a lot of that, and I was like, wow, okay. So hooking
an audience now with maybe 8 to 12 episodes is really hard.
And it's produced by Ubisoft, but get this, Catch-22, they're making fun of the toxic video game industry.
Yeah, and
how do you do that?
And you're only 12 episodes, so you don't have time to explore every character or build them up or explain them or tell. And they're still doing one-off episodes that are just fabulous and bizarre.
Oh, they're making fun of everything.
Is a lot of fun.
HR, development,
Yes.
morons taking credit for someone else's idea. You're like, every one of us has encountered a moron like that at our job.
Oh yeah. No, it's a great little. Mythic Quest is a great little show, and the one of the show's creators is Megan Gantz, who wrote like 10 episodes of Community.
Oh,
8 episodes. 8 episodes. Yeah. No, she's great.
She apparently used to edit for The Onion and The Last Man on Earth. Wow.
There's even she even did a picture of a woman sitting in a bar and drinking, so you can find an old picture of her from the show. But yeah, she did The Onion, and she worked on something else, and she worked on Modern Family and what was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think she worked there one season. I know Andy Bobrow worked a dozen episodes of Community.
Awesome.
Also worked on. He's also on Crap
these are my heroes
now. They're all
the people you don't know their
interconnected.
names, but you go to their IMDb and they got like 5 mega credits. You're like, even if it was the worst episode, you did your job.
You did your job, and you did a good. And a bunch of them are actually talkative, and will talk about the show and their time on the show.
They will be caught dead shooting at a homeless man. You know, they are not awful people. You know, and you see that's the other thing too. We've had to open our minds up, and I think that's why the Chevy Chase chat was just funny. Is like we're having to remind people just because you like them on screen doesn't mean they're possible to work with. You know, and
he was really good in Fletch.
I'll give you one better. Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. Oh, I loved him in Caddyshack.
And it's all improvised, and so. I think that's what was so funny when I see all these Andy Tribeca kind of shows that are kind of making fun of like, as well as a homage to stuff like Naked Gun and Police Academy. And I think Community was interesting because no one knew if they were going to recreate the whole, like, you know, a typical frat boy college. What do you do? It's a community college, you know, and you got Drew Carey being Jeff's old mentor, old boss. I'm like, that was
he's just an attorney with a hole in his hand.
Yeah, so, but wasn't he a former work acquaintance or something?
Drew Carey plays Jeff on Community.
I remember that, but I remember
Drew Carey is in one episode, and he plays his old boss, who is a head of a law firm, and he's got a hole in the middle of his right hand you can drop an olive through.
It was such a wild moment that he did it with style.
Well, go back and listen to it. Just, close your eyes when he shakes hands with Jeff. You hear a sound, and then Joel's face, looks awkward because he just shook hands with a guy with a hole in the middle of his hand, and it just like made it look like it felt funny. And then he had that pop sound, and it's like, oh, this is such a funny, weird joke out of nowhere.
Right, and see again, other people. Even though there was like some sexual tension, they didn't lean into that like other shows where it's like now we just became the will they or won't they show. It's like, no, fuck that.
No, they didn't. And Dan didn't want to do will they won't they. And so when they first ran straight away from it.
When they first asked him to do the movie, he's like, I don't want this to be the billionth Star Trek reunion. I want this to be an actual funny standalone movie.
He says that he said that the movie is going to be more like The Big Chill than any other, because if you think of the show as being a crazy variant of The Breakfast Club, then the movie is going to be more like The Big Chill. So there's going to be a reason for all of them to be together for a very short period of time, for a couple of days, and then that's the basis of the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it doesn't matter if they've gotten a decade older. So it'll still work, he believes, and I expect it will.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Me too. We're gonna do Communicon with it. We're gonna have the
Communicado.
We're going to do the fourth, not to be confused with the Gas League. We're gonna do the fourth Communicon when the movie comes out. So I'm looking forward to it.
I hope to meet you at one of these crazy expos one of these days.
Absolutely, sounds fun.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up